My name does not matter right now. What matters is this truth. I trusted my husband for 10 years. And one single night proved our marriage was a carefully planned lie. Before I tell you how I found out, please listen to me for a moment. If you enjoy emotional, true-to-life stories like this, stories that will open your eyes and touch your heart, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story. And tell me in the comments, which country are you watching from? I want to know where my people are listening from. Now, let me take you back to the night my life broke into pieces. I was standing in front of the bathroom mirror, fixing my gray hair with shaking hands. My heart was beating fast, not because I was excited, but because something felt wrong. That night was supposed to be special. It was our 10th wedding anniversary. 10 years of love. 10 years of trust. 10 years of believing I was married to a good man. I wore the blue dress he once said made me look beautiful. I smiled at myself in the mirror and whispered, "You're lucky. Not many women last 10 years in marriage." If only I knew how foolish those words were. From the living room, I heard his voice on the phone. "Yes, everything is ready," he said quietly. "No mistakes this time." I froze. Mistakes? I leaned closer to the door, my heart pounding. He laughed softly and said, "Relax. She knows nothing. She knows nothing." Those words cut me like a knife. I stepped back, trying to calm myself. I told myself I was imagining things. After all, this was my husband. The man I cooked for. The man I prayed for. The man I trusted with my whole heart. Or so I thought. That evening, guests began to arrive. Family, friends, church members, people who had watched our marriage from the outside and admired us. "You are a strong woman," one lady told me. "10 years is not easy," another said. I smiled. I nodded. I thanked them. But inside, my chest felt heavy. My husband moved around the room like a king. Confident. Calm. Smiling too much. Every time our eyes met, he looked away. That was when fear began to grow inside me. After dinner, he tapped the microphone. "My wife and I have something special to share tonight," he announced. People clapped. I turned to him, confused. We had not planned any surprise. He smiled at me and said, "Sit down. You'll love this." A large projector screen dropped from the ceiling. My stomach twisted. The lights went off. The screen came on. And then, I saw myself. Or at least I thought I did. But the woman on that screen was not me. She was younger, slimmer, laughing. And the man beside her was my husband. Not holding her hand like a friend. Not standing like a brother. But kissing her, touching her, lying with her in a bed I had never seen before. Gasps filled the room. Someone screamed. I could not breathe. My ears rang. My legs gave way. I grabbed the chair to keep from falling. I turned to him, my voice shaking. "What is this?" I whispered. He did not answer. He just stood there, watching the screen, watching his secret play in front of everyone, watching my heart break. But that was not even the worst part. Because as the video continued, a voice began to speak in the background. His voice. Calm. Clear. Confident. He said, "She thinks this marriage is real. 10 years, and she never asked questions. She was the perfect cover." The room went silent. My hands began to shake. Cover. Cover for what? I looked around. Faces were pale. Mouths open. Nobody spoke. Then the voice said something that will haunt me forever. "This marriage was planned from the beginning." That was the moment I realized something terrible. My marriage was not just a betrayal. It was a lie. Carefully planned from day one. I screamed his name. He finally looked at me. And the look in his eyes told me something that broke me even more than the video. He felt no regret. No shame. No fear. Only relief. As if a heavy mask had finally been removed. But what exactly was he hiding for 10 years? Who was the woman in the video? And why did he choose our anniversary to destroy me in front of everyone? What I discovered next changed everything. And I promise you, you are not ready for it. When the lights came back on, nobody moved. Not my friends. Not my family. Not even me. The video stopped, but the pain did not. I was still standing there, holding the back of the chair, breathing like I had run a long race. My heart was beating so loud I thought everyone could hear it. Someone whispered my name. Another person said, "This can't be real." But it was real. Too real. I slowly turned to my husband again. My voice came out weak, like it belonged to another woman. "Why?" I asked. "Why would you do this to me?" He did not rush to explain. He did not apologize. Instead, he calmly adjusted his jacket, like a man getting ready for an important meeting. That was when I knew something even worse was coming. But before I tell you what he said next, let me take you back. Back to the 10 years I trusted him without question. I met my husband when I was already past my youth. I was not rich. I was not flashy. I was just a simple woman who wanted peace. He came into my life like an answer to prayer. He was kind. He was patient. He listened when I spoke. When he asked me to marry him, I cried with joy. People told me, "You are lucky." I believed them. From the very beginning, he handled everything. The house. The bills. The documents. He said, "Don't stress yourself. I will take care of it." And I let him. That was my first mistake. During our marriage, there were signs. Small signs. But I ignored them. He traveled often. He guarded his phone. He had secret meetings. When I asked questions, he smiled and said, "You worry too much." And I believed him. When I felt lonely at night, I told myself, this is marriage. Not every day is sweet. When I noticed he never talked about his past, I said, some people just like privacy. I trusted him because I loved him. And because I was afraid to lose him. There were days I cooked his favorite meals and waited for hours, only for him to come home late and tired. There was traffic, he would say. There was work, he would say. There was a problem, he would say. And I would nod. Always nod. Always understand. I did not know I was playing my role perfectly. Now, standing in that room with everyone staring at me, all those memories rushed back at once. The nights I cried alone. The prayers I prayed for our marriage. The times I defended him when others doubted. I felt foolish. Not because I loved him, but because I never asked the right questions. Finally, he spoke. "I think it's time you knew the truth," he said into the microphone. People gasped again. My legs felt weak. I wanted to scream at him to stop. I wanted to cover my ears. I wanted to wake up from this nightmare. But my body refused to move. "The marriage you believed in," he continued, "was never about love." Those words hit me harder than the video. Never about love. He turned and looked straight at me. "You were safe," he said. "Predictable. Trusting." Each word felt like a slap. "You gave me the image I needed," he added. Image. For what? Someone in the crowd shouted, "You're evil." Another person said, "This is wicked." But he raised his hand, asking for silence. And people obeyed. I felt my chest tighten. "What image?" I asked, my voice barely audible. He smiled again. That cold smile. "The image of a respectable married man," he said. My heart dropped. Then he said something that made the room spin. "Everything I built in the last 10 years depended on this marriage." Built. What had he built behind my back? He began to walk slowly in front of the guests, like a teacher explaining a lesson. "People trust married men," he said. "They give them opportunities. They open doors. I looked at him like I was seeing a stranger. Was this the man I slept beside for 10 years? The man I prayed with? The man I trusted with my life? I felt anger rising inside me for the first time. So I was just a tool? I asked. He paused. Then he said, I wouldn't call it that. The crowd erupted. Some people walked out. Some people cried. Some people shouted. But I stayed. Because I needed answers. I stepped forward, my hands shaking. You used my life, I said. My name. My time. He looked at me with calm eyes and said, You agreed to the marriage. That sentence broke something inside me. Yes. I agreed. But I agreed to love. To honesty. To partnership. Not to being a cover for lies. That was when he dropped another bomb. The woman in the video, he said, is not a mistake. I felt my knees buckle. She has been with me longer than you. The room went silent again. Longer than me? Longer than 10 years? That meant she existed before our wedding. Before our vows. Before our life together. My mouth opened, but no words came out. He continued, This anniversary was not about celebrating you. My heart stopped. It was about ending a chapter. Ending a chapter? What chapter? I whispered. He leaned closer and said something only I could hear. The chapter where you stop asking questions. I felt a chill run through my body. Because suddenly, I understood something terrifying. This night was not just about exposing his affair. It was about something much bigger. Something planned. Something dangerous. And I was standing right in the middle of it. But the worst truth, the one that made my blood run cold, was still coming. And when I heard it, I realized I was never meant to walk out of that room with my dignity intact. After he whispered those words in my ear, my whole body went cold. The chapter where you stop asking questions. I stepped back from him slowly, like I was standing in front of a snake. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The guests were still there, but suddenly, they felt very far away. Their faces were blurry. Their voices sounded distant. All I could see was my husband. The man I trusted for 10 years. The man who had just told me without shame that my life was part of a plan. I swallowed hard and forced myself to speak. So what happens now? I asked. My voice was calm, but inside, I was breaking apart. He looked at me for a long moment, as if deciding how much truth I could handle. Then he said, Now, everything changes. Some people in the room started leaving quietly. Others stayed, frozen in shock. My sister tried to come closer to me, but I raised my hand to stop her. No, I said softly. Let him talk. Because I needed to hear everything. Even if it killed me inside. He cleared his throat and spoke again, loud enough for everyone to hear. For 10 years, he said, this woman played her role perfectly. He pointed at me. Gasps filled the room. She cooked. She prayed. She smiled. She never questioned. I felt tears burn my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. She gave me peace, he continued, while I built my real life. Real life. So what was I living? A fake one? I clenched my fists. What did you build? I asked. This time, he did not answer immediately. Instead, he motioned to the projector again. Someone from the back hesitated. He snapped his fingers. Play the next file. My heart dropped. Next file. There was more. The screen came back on. This time, it was not a bedroom. It was an office. A big office. My husband sat at a desk, signing papers. Men in suits shook his hand. They smiled. They congratulated him. Then words appeared on the screen. Congratulations on your appointment. The room buzzed with confusion. Appointment to what? I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Then I heard his voice again. 4 years, he said, I worked toward a position that required a clean image. A clean image. A faithful husband. A stable home. I felt sick. You were my proof, he said, turning to me. Proof that I was trustworthy. People began to murmur angrily. So you married her to get a job? Someone shouted. He smiled slightly. Not just a job, he said. Power. That word echoed in my head. Power. I felt dizzy. So, every kiss? I asked. Every promise? He interrupted me. Necessary, he said. Necessary. Like I was a tool. Like I was a thing. I remembered our wedding day. How he cried when I walked down the aisle. How he held my hands and said he would protect me. How everyone said we looked so happy. Was that all acting? My chest hurt so badly I thought I might collapse. I forced myself to ask the question I feared most. And the woman in the video? I said. Who is she? The room went silent. Even he seemed careful now. She is my real partner, he said. Real partner. The words crushed me. She knew about you, he added. I felt like the ground disappeared beneath my feet. She knew. I repeated. He nodded. From the beginning. I shook my head slowly. No, that's not possible. But it was. She agreed to wait, he continued. She understood the plan. Plan. Always the plan. I suddenly remembered something from years ago. A phone call I accidentally overheard. Him saying, just be patient. A message I once saw that said, soon. I had laughed it off back then. Now, it all made sense. I looked around the room. At the people who came to celebrate love. At the cake that said, 10 years strong. At the decorations I helped choose. I felt like I was inside a cruel joke. Why expose it now? I asked. He took a deep breath. Because I no longer need the marriage, he said. Those words hurt more than anything else. No longer need. So you humiliated me? I asked. In front of everyone? Yes, he said plainly. That way, there would be no confusion. Confusion about what? I did not need to ask. Then he said something that made the room explode. I have already filed for divorce. People screamed. My sister ran to me and held my arm. What? I whispered. You'll receive the papers tomorrow, he said calmly. Tomorrow. As if we were discussing groceries. My vision blurred. What about the house? I asked. The years I gave you. He looked at his watch. The house is not in your name, he said. The accounts are not in your name. And legally, you own nothing. The room erupted again. Someone shouted, this man is heartless. But he did not flinch. I felt numb. 10 years. And I had nothing. No house. No savings. No protection. I realized something terrifying. He did not just plan to leave me. He planned to leave me with nothing. I leaned on the table to stay standing. That was when a woman at the back of the room stood up. Tall. Confident. She walked forward slowly. My heart stopped when I saw her face. She looked familiar. Too familiar. Then it hit me. She was the woman who once came to our house. As a business associate. The same woman who smiled at me. Who complimented my cooking. Who hugged me goodbye. She stepped beside my husband and held his hand. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, she said to me softly. I screamed. Because at that moment, I understood something even worse. This betrayal was not just planned by him. It was planned by them. And what they intended to do next was far more cruel than exposure. When she held his hand, my world finally stopped spinning. It went completely still, like the moment before a storm destroys everything. I stared at her face, trying to understand what I was seeing. She was calm. confident, not ashamed at all. This was the woman who once sat in my living room. The woman who drank tea from my cups. The woman who looked me in the eyes and smiled. My legs felt weak, but anger was rising inside me, stronger than fear, stronger than pain. I pointed at her with a shaking finger. You, I said. You came into my home. She nodded slowly. Yes, she said. I did. Her voice was soft, almost polite. You ate my food, I continued. You praised my cooking. You hugged me like a friend. She did not deny it. Instead, she said something that made my heart burn. I needed to see you for myself. The room exploded with whispers. See me for what? To measure me? To judge how easy I would be to use? I turned to my husband. You let her into my house? I asked. He nodded once. It was necessary, he said. Necessary again. Everything was always necessary. I laughed suddenly. A dry, broken laugh that shocked even me. So I was never a wife, I said. I was an experiment. The woman tilted her head. No, she said. You were convenient. That word hit me harder than a slap. Convenient. I felt my chest tighten. For 10 years, I said, I prayed for you both without knowing it. She raised her eyebrows slightly. That was not required, she replied. I could not believe her calm. My sister shouted at her, but she ignored it. Instead, she stepped closer to me. I want you to understand something, she said. This was never personal. Never personal. My whole life had just been destroyed. And it was not personal. She began to speak like she was explaining a simple business deal. He needed a stable marriage to advance, she said. I needed time to protect our assets. We both needed silence. Silence. That was why he chose me. A woman who did not ask questions. A woman who trusted easily. A woman who believed marriage was sacred. I felt something inside me crack. So while I was cleaning your house, I said to him, you were building a future with her? He did not deny it. Yes, he said. In a different way. Different way. Everything about them was cold. Planned. Calculated. I remembered the nights he refused to touch me. The times he said he was tired. The way he slept with his back turned. I had blamed myself. Now I knew the truth. The woman cleared her throat. There is one more thing you should know, she said. My heart jumped. More. How could there be more? She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder. Thick. Heavy. She handed it to him, not me. He opened it slowly. Then he turned to face me. These are documents, he said, that explain your position clearly. My position? I felt sick. What position? I asked. He took a breath. You signed them, he said. I shook my head. No. I would remember. He smiled. You signed many things, he replied. Without reading. My mind raced. Papers. Years ago. Bank forms. Property forms. Business forms. He always said, just sign here. And I always did. Because I trusted him. My hands trembled. What did I sign? I asked. He looked me straight in the eyes. You signed away your rights, he said. The room erupted in screams. My ears rang. I could not hear anything clearly anymore. You signed a prenuptial agreement, he continued, that protected everything I own. Prenuptial? I remembered that day now. He told me it was just a form for the bank. I never saw the word prenup. I never read it. I fell back into a chair. My sister knelt beside me, crying. I'm so sorry, she whispered. But it was not her fault. It was mine. I trusted blindly. The woman spoke again. You will receive a small settlement, she said calmly. Enough to start over. Start over. At my age. After 10 years. My hands shook with rage. You planned to leave me poor? I asked. She did not hesitate. Yes, she said. The honesty was cruel. I looked at my husband. How long, I asked, did you plan this? He thought for a moment. Before I met you, he said. That answer destroyed me. Before he met me. So every smile, every word, every promise, all lies. I felt tears finally spill down my face. But something else rose with them. Something dangerous. Something strong. For the first time in 10 years, I stopped begging. I stopped asking why. And I started listening carefully. Because as they spoke, I noticed something strange. They were confident. Too confident. They believed they had won. But they did not know one thing. One very important thing. That would change everything. And when I realized it, my fear slowly turned into something else. Something they never expected. As they stood there, so calm, so certain, I began to understand something. They believed the story was over. They believed I was finished. A broken woman with no money, no power, and no voice. They were wrong. I wiped my tears slowly and lifted my head. My husband frowned slightly. He noticed the change. What? He asked. I stood up straight. For 10 years, I said, my voice steady. You planned everything. He nodded. And for 10 years, I continued, you underestimated me. The woman beside him laughed softly. You were predictable, she said. That's why this worked. Predictable. I smiled. Because she had no idea. Let me take you back again. Not to the beginning of my marriage, but to 5 years ago. A year my husband barely remembers. That year I fell sick. Very sick. I collapsed one morning while cleaning the house. I woke up in the hospital with tubes in my arms and fear in my heart. Doctors ran tests. Nurses whispered. My husband sat by my bed, holding my hand, looking worried. I'll take care of everything, he told me. But there was one day he did not come. Just one. He said he had an important meeting. That was the day everything changed. A nurse came to my bed with a file. Ma'am, she said kindly, we need to talk about your records. She flipped through the pages. Then she frowned. These documents are strange, she said. Some names don't match. My heart began to race. What do you mean? I asked. She lowered her voice. The insurance. The property information. Some of it is not consistent. I felt cold. Later that day, a social worker came. She asked me gentle questions. Do you read the papers your husband gives you? Do you understand what you sign? I felt embarrassed. I shook my head. That was the first time someone made me feel concerned. Not for my health, but for my safety. The next day, my husband returned smiling, acting normal. But something inside me had shifted. For the first time, I decided to pay attention. After I left the hospital, I did something I had never done before. I went to the bank. Alone. I asked questions. The man at the desk looked confused when I gave my name. Your name is not listed as an owner, he said. My heart dropped. But I've been married 10 years, I replied. He shook his head slowly. You're listed as a beneficiary only. Under certain conditions. Conditions? That word stayed with me. I did not confront my husband. No. I waited. I started copying documents quietly. I started listening. I started remembering things that did not add up. I noticed how he moved money. How he hid letters. How he locked drawers. I learned a painful truth. My marriage was not what it looked like. So I protected myself. Quietly. Carefully. I opened a small account in my own name. I saved little by little. Money from gifts. Money from small jobs. Money he never noticed. I also kept something else. Evidence. Now, standing in that room with everyone watching, I looked at him and said something that made his smile fade. You planned for 10 years, I said. But I prepared for 5. His eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? He asked. I turned to the crowd. 5 years ago, I said, I learned that not everything my husband told me was true. Gasps filled the room again. The woman beside him stiffened. I reached into my bag. A bag he never checked. And I pulled out a small flash drive. His face changed. Just a little. But I saw it. What is that? He asked sharply. I smiled. Something you forgot, I replied. I held it up so everyone could see. For years, I said, I kept quiet because I needed to understand. I turned to him. You thought I never asked questions, I said. You thought I never listened. You thought I was weak. He stepped forward. Stop this, he said. I did not stop. That flash drive, I continued, contains recordings. The room erupted. Recordings? Someone shouted. Yes, I said. Phone calls. Conversations. Documents. I looked at the woman. Plans, I added. Her face went pale. He reached for me. Security stepped in. The guests began to murmur loudly. I felt powerful for the first time in years. You cannot use that, he said through his teeth. Oh, I replied softly. I can. I leaned closer to the microphone. You see, I said, when you plan in silence, you forget something. What? He snapped. You forget that silence listens, I said. The room fell silent. But before I could say more, the woman suddenly spoke. You don't understand what you're doing, she said. This can destroy lives. I looked at her. It already did, I replied. Then something unexpected happened. Someone else in the room stood up. Someone I did not expect. Someone connected to them. And when they opened their mouth, I realized my secret was not the only one in that room. The room went quiet when that person stood up. Not the kind of quiet you choose. The kind that falls on you suddenly, heavy and frightening. All eyes turned. Including my husband's. Including the woman beside him. The man who stood up was someone everyone recognized. Someone respected. Someone my husband had mentioned many times with pride. His mentor. The man who helped him rise. The man who opened doors. My heart began to race. Because if he was standing up, then something had gone very wrong. He cleared his throat slowly. I think, he said, there are truths in this room that have been buried long enough. My husband's face went stiff. This is not the time, he said sharply. The man ignored him. I have listened quietly tonight, he continued. And I can no longer do that. Murmurs filled the room again. The woman beside my husband whispered urgently to him, but he brushed her off. No, he said. Sit down. The man did not sit. Instead, he looked straight at me. And what I saw in his eyes shocked me. Regret. I owe you an apology, he said. The words hung in the air. Apology. For what? My chest tightened. I knew, he continued slowly, that this marriage was arranged. The room exploded. Someone screamed. My sister gasped loudly beside me. I felt like the floor was breaking apart beneath my feet. You knew. I whispered. He nodded. Yes, he said. I knew it was strategic. Strategic. Another word that made my skin crawl. My husband stepped forward angrily. Enough, he snapped. You are crossing a line. The man turned to him calmly. No, he said. You crossed it 10 years ago. Silence fell again. He looked back at me. At the time, he said, I convinced myself it was not my business. My heart hurt. So you all knew. I asked softly. Not everyone, he replied. But enough. Enough. That meant I had been surrounded by people who smiled at me while knowing the truth. The woman beside my husband finally lost her calm. This is irrelevant, she said. The documents are legal. Legal. She clung to that word like a shield. But the man shook his head. Not all of them, he said. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? She demanded. He took a deep breath. Some agreements were built on false disclosures, he said. My husband froze. What false disclosures? He asked slowly. The man looked at him with disappointment. You know exactly what I mean. My heart began to pound. What is he talking about? I asked. The man hesitated, then spoke. There were assets, he said, that were hidden. Hidden. The woman snapped her head toward my husband. You said everything was clean, she hissed. He did not answer. The man continued. And there were identities, he added, that were misrepresented. The room erupted again. Identities. Someone shouted. My breath caught in my throat. I remembered something then. Something small. Something I had ignored. Years ago, a letter came to our house with a different name on it. He said it was a mistake. I believed him. Now my hands began to shake. The man turned to the guests. There is more, he said. But it should not be said lightly. He looked at me again. You deserve to know, he said gently. My husband exploded. Stop, he shouted. You have no right. Security moved again. People stood up, shouting. The room was chaos. I raised my hand. Let him speak, I said. My voice was steady. Even I was surprised. The man nodded. Thank you, he said. He took a breath. Your husband, he said slowly, did not just use this marriage to build his image. My heart thudded painfully. He used it to hide from scrutiny. Hide from what? The woman's face went pale. What are you saying? She asked. The man looked at her. I'm saying, he replied, that the position he gained was based on lies. My husband's jaw tightened. You can't prove that, he said. The man smiled sadly. Yes, he said. I can. I felt dizzy. This is why you exposed me tonight, isn't it? I asked suddenly. Everyone turned to me. You wanted control of the story, I said. My husband's eyes flickered. You wanted to destroy me first, I continued, before anyone looked deeper. He said nothing. That silence was louder than any confession. I turned to the woman. You knew, I said. She swallowed. Not everything, she replied quickly. Not everything. That was enough for me. The man spoke again. There is an investigation coming, he said. Gasps filled the room. An investigation, my sister whispered. Yes, he confirmed. And when it begins, this marriage will be examined closely. My husband finally looked afraid. Just a little. But I saw it. You see, the man continued, this marriage was not just a cover for infidelity. My heart stopped. It was a shield. A shield. Against what? The woman stepped back. This was not part of the plan, she said sharply to my husband. He turned to her. You said it was safe, she continued. You promised. Promises. The same thing he once gave me. I stepped forward again, holding the flash drive tightly. I told you, I said quietly. You underestimated me. My husband looked at me now like I was dangerous. What do you want? He asked. I met his eyes. The truth, I said. All of it. The man nodded slowly. You will get it, he said. But not tonight. My heart sank. Why not? I asked. Because, he replied, once the next truth comes out. He paused and looked straight at my husband. Nothing will ever be controlled again. Just then, I felt my phone vibrate in my bag. I looked down. A message. From a number I did not recognize. My hands shook as I opened it. It said, "They are watching you. Do not play the file yet." My blood ran cold. Because suddenly, I understood something terrifying. This was bigger than betrayal. Bigger than marriage. And I had just stepped into something far more dangerous than heartbreak. My hands began to shake as I stared at the message on my phone. "They are watching you. Do not play the file yet." I read it again. And again. My heart started to pound so hard it hurt. Who were they? Watching me how? From where? I slowly looked up from my phone and scanned the room. People were still arguing. Some were crying. Some were shouting at my husband. But suddenly, none of that mattered. Because I felt it. That heavy feeling you get when danger is close. I slipped my phone back into my bag and tried to act normal, but my breathing was uneven. My husband noticed. He always noticed when something slipped from his control. "What did you see?" he asked sharply. I forced myself to look calm. "Nothing," I said. But his eyes narrowed. He knew me too well. The man who stood up earlier, his mentor, leaned toward me. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. I hesitated. Then I whispered, "Someone just warned me." His face changed. "Warned you about what?" he asked. "About the flash drive," I replied. His jaw tightened. That was enough. The woman beside my husband suddenly spoke again. "We need to end this now," she said firmly. "This gathering is over." She looked around, trying to regain control. "Everyone should leave," she added. But nobody moved. They wanted answers. So did I. My husband walked toward me slowly. Lowering his voice, he said, "You are making a mistake." I looked him straight in the eyes. "No," I replied. "I made my mistake 10 years ago." His face hardened. "You have no idea what you are dealing with," he said. That sentence sent chills down my spine. Because it sounded like a threat. I suddenly remembered something from years back. A night he came home late. Angry. Shaking. He said, "You don't understand how dangerous my work is." I had laughed then. I was not laughing now. My sister grabbed my hand. "We should go," she whispered urgently. For the first time that night I agreed. Something had shifted. This was no longer just a broken marriage. This was about safety. As we turned to leave, my husband raised his voice. "If you walk out with that drive," he said, "you will regret it." The room went silent. Every eye turned to him. I stopped. Slowly, I turned back. "Is that a threat?" I asked. He did not answer. That silence said everything. The mentor stepped between us. "That is enough," he said firmly. Security moved closer. My husband clenched his jaw but said nothing. We began to move toward the door. My heart was racing. Each step felt heavy. I felt like something terrible would happen before I reached the exit. And then, the lights went out. A scream ripped through the room. Someone knocked over a chair. Panic exploded. My sister clutched my arm. "Don't let go," she cried. The darkness felt thick and alive. In the chaos, someone grabbed my bag. I screamed and pulled back. "No!" I shouted. Hands pushed. People fell. Voices clashed. I held the bag tight to my chest. Because that flash drive was no longer just evidence. It was leverage. And apparently, it was dangerous. The lights flickered back on. People were shaken. Breathing hard. Looking around in fear. I checked my bag quickly. The flash drive was still there. My phone buzzed again. Another message. "Leave now. They won't try again tonight." Tonight. That word scared me more than anything else. I looked up. My husband was staring at me. Not angry. Not smug. Afraid. And that terrified me. because it meant I had something he could not control anymore. We left the building quickly. Outside, the night air felt cold. My legs were weak. My sister guided me to the car. As we drove away, I looked back at the building one last time. The place where my marriage died. The place where the truth began. When we got home, I locked the door, checked the windows, pulled the curtains tight. My sister made me sit down. "You need to call the police," she said. I shook my head slowly. "Not yet," I replied. "Why?" she asked. I held up my phone. "Because someone knows more than we do," I said. "And they are trying to protect me." Or so they claimed. That night, I did not sleep. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow looked like a threat. I replayed the last 10 years in my mind. Every strange moment. Every lie. Every warning I ignored. Just before morning, another message came in. This time, it was longer. "If you want the full truth about your husband, meet me tomorrow. Come alone. Bring the drive." My heart stopped. Come alone. Bring the drive. This was no longer just my story. It was turning into something much darker. Something much more dangerous. And I knew. If I went, my life would never be the same again. Morning came, but it did not bring peace. It brought fear. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone like it might explode in my hands. The message was still there, unchanged. "If you want the full truth about your husband, meet me tomorrow. Come alone. Bring the drive." Come alone. Those 2 words scared me the most. My sister had not slept either. I could see it in her eyes as she brought me a cup of tea. "You're not going," she said firmly. I did not answer. She set the cup down hard. "You cannot go," she repeated. "This is dangerous." I knew she was right. But I also knew something else. If I did not go, I would never know the whole truth. And I had lived 10 years in lies already. I could not live another day wondering. I spent the morning thinking. Thinking about every warning. Thinking about my husband's fear. Thinking about the mentor's words. Thinking about the woman who planned my destruction like it was a business deal. Whatever this secret was, it was big. Big enough to scare powerful people. Big enough to make strangers warn me. I finally spoke. "I have to go," I said quietly. My sister's eyes filled with tears. "Then I'm coming with you," she replied. I shook my head. "No," I said. "They said alone." "That's exactly why you shouldn't go," she argued. I took her hands. "If I don't go," I said softly, "they'll keep controlling the story." She searched my face. "You could be walking into a trap," she whispered. "I know," I replied. And that was the truth. I did not tell anyone else. Not the police. Not friends. I trusted no one now. I hid the flash drive inside my clothing, close to my body. If they wanted it, they would have to come very close. That thought made my stomach twist. The message gave an address. An old cafe on the edge of town. A place I had never been. That alone felt wrong. As I drove, my hands shook on the steering wheel. Every car behind me felt suspicious. Every turn made my heart race. I checked my mirror again and again. Was I being followed? I could not tell. When I arrived, the cafe looked quiet. Too quiet. Only 2 cars in the parking lot. The windows were dusty. The sign flickered. I sat in my car for a full minute, breathing hard. I told myself I could still leave. I did not. Inside, the cafe smelled of old coffee and silence. A man behind the counter barely looked up. There were only 2 people sitting inside. One old man by the window. And a woman in a dark coat, sitting with her back to the door. My heart jumped. Was it her? I took a step forward. The woman slowly turned her head. And my breath caught in my throat. I recognized her. Not from my life. From my husband's life. She was his former assistant. The one who quit suddenly years ago. The one he never spoke about again. She looked at me carefully. You came, she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were tired. Yes, I replied. You sent the messages? She nodded. Sit, she said. I hesitated, then sat across from her. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly. You told me to come, I replied. She sighed. I told you because you deserve to know, she said. But knowing comes with danger. My heart pounded. Tell me, I said. Everything. She looked around the cafe, then leaned closer. Your husband, she began, is not just a liar. I swallowed. He is a builder of false lives, she continued. False lives? What does that mean? I asked. It means, she said, your marriage was one of many structures. Structures? For what? She took a deep breath. For years, she said, he helped powerful people hide money. My stomach dropped. Through marriages, she continued. Through businesses. Through clean images. I felt dizzy. You were his strongest shield, she added. Shield. That word again. I thought about the investigation. The hidden assets. The false identities. It was all connecting. So the woman, I said. The one beside him. She was his partner, the assistant replied. But not the brain. My heart raced. Then who is? I asked. She looked me straight in the eyes. Someone you have already met, she said. My chest tightened. Who? I whispered. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a photograph. She slid it across the table. My hands shook as I picked it up. And when I saw the face, my blood ran cold. Because the person in that photo was someone I trusted. Someone who stood beside me that night. Someone who comforted me. Someone who told me they were sorry. I looked up, my voice barely working. That's not possible, I said. The woman nodded slowly. I wish it wasn't, she replied. At that moment, the bell over the cafe door rang. Someone had entered. The assistant's eyes widened. Hide the drive, she whispered urgently. I turned and froze. Because the person walking toward us was my husband. My heart stopped the moment I saw him. My husband. Standing there in the doorway of the cafe, looking calm, like this was all planned. Like he knew exactly where I would be. For a second, I could not breathe. The assistant's face went pale. She stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the floor. You shouldn't be here, she said. He smiled. I could say the same thing, he replied. That smile. The same one he wore for 10 years. The same one that hid everything. I stayed seated, frozen. How did you find me? I asked. He looked at me slowly. You still think you were invisible, he said. You never were. That answer scared me more than any shout. The old man by the window stood up quietly and walked out. The man behind the counter suddenly disappeared into the back. We were alone. Just the three of us. And the truth. You followed me, I said. He shook his head. No, he replied. I anticipated you. Anticipated. Like a chess move. The assistant spoke quickly. She deserves the truth, she said. He laughed softly. She deserves nothing, he replied. That sentence cut deeper than any insult. I stood up slowly. 10 years, I said. 10 years, and this is all I deserve? He stepped closer. 10 years was generous, he said. I clenched my fists. You lied to me, I said. You used me, I continued. You put my life in danger. He tilted his head. Danger, he said. You were safest when you didn't know anything. Safest. I felt sick. The assistant pulled something from her bag. Documents. Copies. She slammed them onto the table. These are yours, she said to him. Transactions. Transfers. Names. His smile faded. Just a little. Put those away, he said quietly. She didn't. You promised protection, she said. You lied to me too. His eyes darkened. You were paid, he replied. That was the agreement. I finally understood. Everyone around him was disposable, including me. You sent the messages, I said to her. She nodded. I tried to warn you, she said. But he always moves faster. I turned to him. You were watching me, I said. Yes, he replied. Because you had something I needed. The flash drive. My heart pounded. Give it to me, he said calmly. No, I replied. He stepped closer. You don't understand what's on it, he said. It can destroy people far bigger than me. Good, I said. That surprised him. For the first time, I saw anger flash across his face. You think this ends well for you, he snapped. I don't care anymore, I replied. You already destroyed my life. He stared at me. Long. Hard. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. You think you were my only wife? I felt dizzy. What? I whispered. There were others, he said. Other women. Other marriages. Other covers. The cafe felt like it was spinning. You were just the longest, he added. The assistant gasped. You promised she was the last, she said. He ignored her. You see, he said to me, you were chosen because you were believable. I felt tears burn my eyes, but I refused to cry. You came here to scare me, I said. Yes, he replied. And to take the drive, he added. No, the assistant shouted. She won't give it to you. He turned to her slowly. You already made your choice, he said. That was when I noticed something terrifying. He was not alone. Through the cafe window, I saw a car pull up. Then another. Men stepped out. Not police. Not friends. They moved like people who followed orders. My heart began to race wildly. You set me up, I whispered. He nodded. I warned you not to play the file, he said. Now you understand why. The assistant grabbed my arm. You have to run, she whispered. Now. But it was too late. The cafe door opened again. Heavy footsteps. I felt trapped. Cornered. My husband leaned closer to me and spoke softly. Hand it over, he said. And you walk away alive. Alive. That word echoed in my head. I thought of my sister. Of my wasted years. Of the lies. Of the truth buried in that small flash drive. I closed my eyes. And made a decision. One that would change everything. I opened my eyes slowly. My husband was still standing in front of me, waiting. His hand was stretched out. Give it to me, he said again, his voice low. And this ends. Behind him, the men he brought stood near the door. Quiet. Watching. Ready. The assistant was shaking beside me. I knew one thing very clearly in that moment. If I handed over the flash drive, I would walk away alive. But the truth would die forever. And I had already lived 10 years in a lie. I could not live the rest of my life protecting one. I took a deep breath. And I did something he never expected. I smiled. He frowned. What are you smiling about? He asked. I reached into my bag slowly. His men stiffened. But I did not pull out the flash drive. I pulled out my phone. You're too late, I said calmly. His face changed. What do you mean? He asked sharply. I looked him straight in the eyes. The files, I said. They're not just on the drive anymore. The cafe went silent. The assistant looked at me in shock. You sent them, she whispered. I nodded. The night before, when I couldn't sleep, when fear sat beside me in the dark, I made a choice. I sent copies. To a lawyer. To a journalist. To someone the mentor trusted. I did not know who to trust anymore, so I trusted the truth. My husband stepped back slowly. "You wouldn't dare," he said. "I already did," I replied. For the first time that night. He looked powerless. "You see," I continued, my voice steady, "you taught me something without knowing it." He said nothing. "You taught me that silence protects liars," I said. "And truth destroys plans." The assistant let out a shaky breath. The men near the door began to whisper to each other. They knew it too. The power had shifted. "You ruined everything," my husband said quietly. I nodded. "Yes," I replied. "And you ruined my life." We stood there, staring at each other. 10 years of lies. Finally exposed. Minutes later, sirens filled the air. Real ones. Blue lights flashed through the cafe windows. The men he brought stepped back. My husband turned slowly, his face pale. "You told the police?" he asked. "No," I said. "I told the truth. And that was enough." When they took him away, he did not look at me. Not once. The woman who planned everything with him was arrested weeks later. The investigation uncovered more than I ever imagined. Other women. Other lies. Other ruined lives. I was not alone. I was never alone. I lost 10 years. But I did not lose myself. I rebuilt. Slowly. Carefully. With eyes open this time. If you are watching this story right now, let me say this to you. If something feels wrong, if silence is demanded, if questions are punished, please listen to your heart. Truth may be painful, but lies are deadly. If this story touched you, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more real, emotional stories like this. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. And comment below. Which part of the world are you watching from? You are not alone. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is tell the truth.